Today is Lucila Dotto. She is a global head of sustainability at the Project Management Institute and also executive director at the GPM partnership. She also leads the integration of sustainability in the project management profession. Through her work, she empowers project management professionals worldwide to deliver impact that creates value for organizations, people, and the planet. So it's really nice to welcome you, Lucila, at our podcast. So thank you for
Thank
joining.
you. No, thank you so much for inviting me to dialogue with you. Really excited to be part of this series of podcasts.
Hi, Lucila. It's nice to have you here. I'm Alejandra from Honduras, and I would love to start off this conversation with a little bit of your personal journey and motives into transitioning to the green project management, because we were looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you started in like psychology. So we would love to hear about how did you started off your career and how have you been transitioning into this area of green project management?
Yes, for sure. Well, so I'm a psychologist background, and I have always been interested in the people side of things and organizations. And in the end, everything that we do it for our people. So as part of my professional journey, I was working for KPMG, the consulting firm. I was working in the people consulting space for the UK member firm. And then I transitioned to a global role to lead a project that was called Purpose Reinvigoration. So KPMG decided to reevaluate how we were making impact for our people, our clients, and society, all this ESG strategy. So I was lucky enough to lead that project. And as part of that project, I start not only thinking about the people dimension that was at that time my expertise, but also how we integrate the environmental aspect in everything that we do and our ESG ways of working and how we really bring the organizational purpose to life. So that was kind of like the way I start expanding my experience from the people to the planet side and also the governance aspect of sustainability. So, and then I moved to PMI. I work as the Europe head of community for 2 years and a half. And then as part also from the European chapters, PMI decided to establish this area and formalize sustainability. We have been doing some actions and been connecting with green project management. But last year, our CEO took a bold stand to really partner with GPM and develop a joint venture to put sustainability at the heart of everything that we do. And because of my experience with the European community, that was one of the regions more invested and passionate in sustainability and my work in KPMG, then I started leading this area. I'm really excited to be working with many people from the volunteers, the champions, the chapters, and PMI employees to really bring this movement to life.
Okay,
Great.
so that's amazing journey, Lucila. And do you remember a moment during your career when you realized that projects are not only, about the results, about KPIs, but also about the people, about the nature? Was there like some shift, or when you started at the beginning, you understand that projects are more, they're not, like results?
Yeah, so I think probably I always, as I said, I think based on my background, I always think about people first. So that's something that I brought to my ways of working. However, when I first start leading projects, I feel more that I need to behave by the book. So the scope, the budget, the schedule, that's kind of my main areas that I need to oversee and take care of. But I think as I develop and I start building connections, I realize more and more that a project can be successful from that kind of triple constraint and project parameters, but not necessarily add value. And there are other projects that they add value, and then perhaps you can negotiate the budget and you can involve your stakeholders to really reassess the parameters. So I think at that time, I really reconfirmed the importance as a project professional to manage the perceptions. Sometimes we spend a lot of time really focusing on the triple constraint and less time in terms of how we sell our project to the stakeholders in the organization. So they really trust in our roles as leaders of the project. They trust in the value that we are bringing to the organization. So I think these days it's even more important because with AI, there are many things that we can standardize and we can have a lot of help with tools such as Infinity from PMI, for example, to spend more time in managing perceptions, engaging with our stakeholders, really selling our ideas in a compelling way. And I think my experience working, for example, as a project professional in KPMG helped me a lot to really highlight that importance of spending time in terms of that perception management. And also realizing the importance of really think that we are the owners of the project success. We really, as project professionals, are not only owning the budget or the schedule, but the success of the project, that it means the value it brings to the organization. So how we can really talk the business language and really help other people that are not as connected as we are with a project to really understand the link between what we are doing and why we are doing that, and what is the benefit that will bring to the organization and, of course, to society and the world to inspire other people.
Yes, during the process of the PMBOK guide that we were working, Gabriela and I were part of the core developer team. We were discussing a lot about this value and how project management should be oriented into delivering value more than into working with constraints and schedule, and so it's really interesting that your perspective and your main career, like being a psychologist, help you out to see the importance of involving people. And whenever you talk about people, you need to talk about value, because what I think is that the main reason why we have projects is to solve things. You develop a project to solve a need, to help someone, to develop something new that is needed. So it turns to be all around people. So I would love to hear from you if in your experience you have been related to other people from other careers, like what is the importance of having a diverse set of people knowing about project management in your experience? Because you come from psychology, I come from architecture. And Gabriele comes from another professional place. So in your experience, what is that importance of having a diverse collection of professionals knowing about project management?
Yeah, well, I think it's the beauty of the project profession that we bring people with such different background and expertise that this makes projects so much interesting and also the teams so much rich. And I think it's not only my point of view, but also there is a lot of research that shows how diversity promotes success and how teams that are built through a diverse lens and diverse from background, from age, from culture, can perform better. So I think it's an accelerator of performance, that diversity. And I think PMI community is really a privilege in that sense, because we have so many people from different cultures, different backgrounds, that projects and collaboration becomes really exciting and beautiful. So I couldn't agree more on what you were saying about the value of diversity and as an accelerator of performance. And I think there is an opportunity for all of us to tap into our previous experience and really bring those insights to the project that we're leading and the teams we're connecting with. I think what you were reflecting about the concept of value versus the constraint, for example, for me, can easily relate to the concept of positive psychology. So, for example, there are many people that are approaching psychology, for example, from the perspective of Freud, that talks about some trauma, our childhood experiences and problems and issues and how that shapes our personality. But there is another side of also considering things that is called positive psychology. That is how you approach your strength and make it shine, because if your strength shines, then the trauma or the negative side of your personality goes a little bit away. In this way, I'm not trying to underestimate the contribution of Freud, don't get me wrong, I love him. But I think also it's really important to recognize the strengths. And if we work, for example, with people and really focus on what's the unique contribution that that person brings to the project and help him or her shine, probably we will manage performance in a better way rather than only focusing on what's not working and emphasizing that. Because in the end, where we put our energy grows. So if we put our energy in the positive and what's working, we make that flourish and mitigate the negative effect. If we only focus on what's not working, probably we will make it bigger and it will become a bigger problem. So when I think about the concept of value and projects, this reminds me a lot of the concept of positive psychology. What is the value? What is the strength that that project or that person is bringing, and how we can make that expand versus focusing on what's not working.
Amazing perspective. And now I'm thinking you mentioned we can even say stakeholders, and within the project management area we are talking about the stakeholders and communication as long as I remember. But talking about the sustainability, about the people part, about environmental part, at least within the previous versions of PMBox, it wasn't there. And only now the principle of sustainability is embedded in the PMBox 8, that sustainability should cover all areas of projects. And also the partnership with GPM within PMI. And why do you think now the sustainability, if I can say, is on trend? Is it a trend actually, or people start to understand its real value? What do you think? What's your personal perspective?
I think it's not a trend. So of course, I think you are right in saying that now everyone is starting to talk about sustainability and prioritizing sustainability. So for example, the United Nations every year conducts a study that is called the CEO report, where they interview the top CEOs of the most important organizations worldwide. And in 2025, they did this research with 2,000 of CEOs, and 90% of them consider sustainability as a key strategic priority. But the problem is how we make it real, how we make it happen, how we close that execution gap. So I think it's a good call to action for the project profession to help organizations to bring this accountability and practicality and action-oriented way of solving problems and thinking about strategies in a concrete way. So I think many organizations are prioritizing sustainability, governments. We are talking about Europe, like in Europe, for many years now, but I think the world is moving towards what is the impact of the things that we are doing and what is the legacy in terms of people, planet, and the prosperity. So I don't think it's a trend. I think sustainability has been a topic for many years now, of course, not as priority as now, but I'm really happy to see more and more commitment in this front. And perhaps now the conversations are not about sustainability matters or not, because it matters. So that's not the discussion. It's much more on the how we can make it real, how we can show real progress, how we can measure the impact that we do, how we can reassess when it's not working. So I think that's the conversation that we should be having. It's not if it's important or not. I think the past years and the conversations that are happening at many layers and in different regions has proven that this is important and it's an imperative, but our discussion and our ways of working should be moving towards what is our contribution in the role that we play, in the project that we lead, in the organization that we form, and in the end, how we behave as human beings and contribute to a better world.
Okay, that's amazing. Now I have like another question in mind. I remember like reading on some institutional theory that is basically saying that there might be motives of companies behaving in a certain way based on some regulatory, necessities, regulations, or their competitors or their partners. And what do you think, having such a global perspective on this topic, do you think it comes like internally from the organization that people start to believe in these kind of topics, that it's a necessity, or it's a external pressure? What do you think? What's your observation on that?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I think connected on what we were discussing before about the diversity, I would also said that it's super different, and we have different maturity levels. Of course, there is a regulation pressure. Probably some people that are listening to us know about the GRI. So there are some regulations or compliance, and we need to take it from a compliance point of view. Other organizations may be thinking about awareness and communications and marketing and positioning and sales, because it's also a strong connection between sustainability and the business side. So you can do good, and then you can be really profitable as well. And perhaps other organizations are doing it because they really believe in this and they want to do good, as we always said, and we work with a third party that is saying that good is the new cool. And I agree about that, because it's really important to do good. But I think in the end, it's really like diverse by region, by industry, by organization, and by maturity. However, when people said, oh, this organization is doing it for marketing purposes and complain about that, I think in the end, it's good that they are doing it, because it's like in education. I try to kind of connect these as like human beings, psychology. So I feel when we were young, or if for the people that have kids, you tell your kids to brush their teeth. And then it's like, you need to brush your teeth. If not, blah, 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 this is the consequence. And then that becomes habit. So we don't question ourselves on brushing our teeth, because it has been embedded in our normal practices, in the way we act, and we feel bad about it if we are not doing the right thing. So I think as society, in a way, sometimes we need to work in a certain rules, let's say, so those behaviors become automatic. So when people complain that, oh no, they are doing it because of the regulation, or they are doing it because of marketing, well, in the end, they are shaping behaviors. And if the top organizations of the world behave in a certain way, then that makes a statement for individual people that will follow that trend, let's say, or that way of reacting, or that kind of like mandatory practice, and then it will become more natural. So I tend to connect our way of behaving as a society as we behave as human beings. We need some rules, and because we need to do that, and it's the right thing, and then they'll become automatic, and we will not question certain ways of behaving or reacting. So I think it's a maturity aspect. I think in the end, we want organizations and everyone doing it because it's the right thing to do. But if we need to set rules and we need to connect to other type of messages, I think ultimately serves that big purpose that we want to accomplish.
I love how you explained it, and I love it because it connects a lot too with the project management mindset that we have in the new standard. One of the objectives that we hope to have with that project management mindset is to have that regulation part that like the project manager needs to transition into being this, and have it embed in them as values. Because I have experience in my career, I work a lot in change management with organizations, and one of the things that works the most is when people adopt a value, and that value helps them make decisions. So when they have the mindset, it's so much more easier to do things. Like you were saying, the example of brushing your teeth. You have the mindset that you need to brush your teeth, so that is a habit and that forms part of your life. And then it's easier for you to do it all the time. So what would you recommend for project managers in terms of how can they focus more on people? Because, most project managers come from a very technical career that they are not exposed into much of the people side. So I have worked with a lot of technology teams and even construction teams that are more into the deliverable and whatever you're doing, and not in the person side. So how would you recommend them to start thinking about the well-being, the inclusion, and how is this shaping changes in project management teams?
Well, thank you for the question.
If you want to know the answer to this question, please follow us and watch our next episode.